Hi everyone, Yvonne to us with What the Freak. I don't have some structured script topic that I'm covering currently anyway. I get people do those things to appeal to the psychology of who they're speaking to and all that. I'm simply sharing a message and experiences and insights that I've gained through my overcoming the effects of narcissistic abuse and CPTSD. And decades of research because I wanted to know what in the hell was making people treat each other the way they were, and they love us and they say they love us, and yet how do we feel? How stressed are we? And why? Because of work, because of money, because of this or that? Yes. And why? Two major things I discovered through my journey. Well, lots of major things, really. Two of the most limiting and damaging that I discovered in going through the enlifted method, the abracadabra, and the recognizing the stories that I'd been taught and that I was telling myself, and just how deep our stories go when we reflect on how our DNA works, when we reflect on how our mind works, when we reflect on how our perceptions work to create our life and determine our choices that have got us where we are now. And it just, why is nobody asking why their life is the way it is, where it is now? We want to blame it on other people. And really, it's our choices that we are making, what we're allowing or not allowing, what we're listening to or not listening to, who we're believing and what we're believing, and how much of that has been programmed in us. So I desire to share from the heart. That's why I won't script something, because I feel like it gets me in my head too much. And the shame that people are feeling for the mistakes they've made and that they continue to feel is what is causing the narcissism, the psychopath, the psychotic deviant behaviors. I'm sure of that for me anyway, knowing what I know about how our emotions impact our choices, our thinking, our feelings, which is our power to create our reality. I hung out with a friend recently, and having been there myself for so long, unfairly, unnecessarily, unjustly, because I was being judged by people that were also imperfect. And I was allowing their perception of me to affect who I am and choose to be. I was believing their stories about me and accepted it as my truth. And it destroyed me almost. Well, multiple times, really. Because I adopted it as truth, because they were entrusted positions of authority. So I believed what they told me blindly. So going through that, through childhood, having so much stress and hell through adulthood, made me look and to discover something so simple and powerful, because it simply is addressing our stories. Where did what we feel about ourselves and others come from? And why were we taught that? And then accepted as truth? When, if you really look, if you really think about all of it and how physics and the God's laws, universal laws, natural laws work, which is mathematics, why are we swallowing so much? It's because we've been taught to, programmed to, from my perspective and experience. Because once I started applying this simple method that I now do, and I'm simply offering, not trying to sell anything, sharing that I have been there. I have been there. I've been the herder and the herdee. I've been the person doing the damage and the person having the damage done to them. And what I realized, epic duh, is it was done to me. I was taught that's how to be, so I grew up doing that to others, unbeknownst to me. Like that I was a poet and didn't know it. And it was this 2x4 to the many 2x4s to the face of why things were showing up in my life the way they were, consistently, constantly stressing me out. And it was, I was never taught to learn from my mistakes. I was taught to justify and excuse them and then dump on everybody else around me that didn't agree with my story. I was taught to be shamed for making mistakes. I was taught to judge myself for making mistakes. I was taught to assume about other people as opposed to asking questions and actually getting their side of the story. Because how many of us have been on the end of the stick where we were being judged and assumed about, gossiped about, and nobody got our story, our side. They just assumed without knowing all of it. Because something I've learned in listening and talking to others, when we listen to the other sides of the story, regardless of whether they're lying or not, we'll know. The only reason that we're not knowing whether it's the truth or not is because we're believing the lies about ourselves that we're telling ourselves. So we don't trust ourselves to know. Because we were judged and shamed by those in trusted positions of authority, and they're, because they love us, and because they love us and we innately trust them, and then have been taught to trust certain authority figures, that who are they? What do they know? It's one perspective. It's one fraction of the story. Same thing with the news, same thing with anything else. It is what we're choosing to believe to be true is where we are at with where we'll listen to. What we want to hear versus what reality is telling us, what reality is showing us. And the biggest gap, the biggest cause of stress, if people want to know why they're so stressed, is because the biggest cause is the gap between expectation and reality. What reality are we believing and why? And why are we not willing to listen to others' perspectives? Why do we automatically shut people out? I was doing that too. You couldn't tell me shit. I wasn't listening. I knew. I had all the answers. The more I opened myself up to, and I stopped judging where the information was coming from, when I stopped assuming I was right, a whole new world opened up of what was going on, of knowing my truth, of knowing my journey, and learning so much more than any university education or academic education could ever teach. And it's how we're creating our reality. I don't need a degree. I don't need followers. I don't need any of those things that we have been programmed to believe is success or believe is the way to do things. I found out the way to do things so then I could create my success and my happiness and my peace and my reality. And it was by trusting myself and the experiences, because what do most people do? They discount our experiences and what we have experienced and felt and was there to witness. And they judge it and assume that we're crazy, or assume that we're out there, or whatever, a freak, that we're a freak. Look up the etymology of the word freak and weird. They're actually positive. And I I do my best to be authentic and real, and at the same time not play small to protect other smallness, because then we both lose. Because things are evolving and changing anyway, and we can learn to grow and adapt with the changes, or we can cling on to old ideas and things that are unsustainable and stress ourselves the fuck out. I was doing that. I've been there. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm sharing these things. Because I see how it's causing others unnecessary suffering, unnecessary stress. And it's because we are listening to other people's perceptions and allowing their perceptions of us, when I know I'm a good person. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. It is that we don't have to be defined by what other people's perceptions of us are. In fact, that's what's fucking most of us up. Is we're trying to live according to other people's expectations and allowing other people's judgments to shame ourselves and keep us stuck in this people-pleasing, got to conform to everybody else so they don't react or get mad at me or judge me or criticize me or whatever, assume things about me. The only thing an assumption is doing is, number one, creating conflict in every level, in every way. And two, the judgments is keeping us from listening. There's a lot of experiences I had that my parents used to label demonic, evil. If you step out or look at anything outside of this religion, it's from Satan. Talk about a cult and gaslighting. And yet how many do that? And so it keeps us from looking and exploring and getting to know others and connecting with others and realizing we're just allowing other people to manipulate our perceptions of others and judge them based on partial stories, which is just conjecture. And we're doing that on a lot of levels with a lot of things. And it's keeping us from seeing the truth for ourselves, especially with censorship and things like that happening, or people trying to manipulate and control the narrative. And we're not even contemplating looking at another perspective, another possibility of what could be the truth. Because what I realized when I stopped letting other people define what's true and real for me, I started seeing the truth showing up for myself everywhere through many mediums. And so now, because I experienced that, because it resonated with me and what I know to be true, nobody else can manipulate or influence me. At the same time, I stay open to listening to other sides. I don't keep myself closed off from listening. I'll just know. I'll listen and I'll know. Because I learned how to undo the lies by going through my story and changing my words. Abracadabra. With my words I create, and with my words I influence myself and my world. By what I believe, think, feel, say, and do, and choose. And so I did something about it, and that's why I won't play small, because I put in the work to make the changes, to do something about how I was treating others and myself, and what I was allowing and tolerating and being taught to allow and tolerate. And it was stressing me out and making me miserable, because I felt like I had to live up to other people's expectations and perceptions of me, instead of choosing for myself who I choose to be and what I choose to see. Because I'm coming from a place of love, genuine, authentic, unconditional love. Now, because now I know what it is. But I had to undo the effects of what gaslighting and what I had been taught to believe to be true about life, about me, about my world, about others. So the shame I realized with my friend, the shame that we keep pointing at other people as though what, we're perfect? As though what, we aren't valuable because we don't have this or that status or title or whatever. When I've learned more from everyday people, I don't label, but every day, everybody I come across, I learn something so valuable. Their stories, their experiences, they're just so fascinating and powerful, really, what they've been through, how they overcame and came to learn the truth for them. And stop the judging and the assuming and the pride and the arrogance of believing we know the truth or we know what's real and we're right and we're certain of it. Are you? So I desire to get on here because I see that what shame is doing, we're shaming ourselves and then we're shaming others because we're refusing to see the shame in ourselves. And Rudolf Steiner said, anything that seeks to constrict or control is by definition a Luciferian force. So people want to sit there and judge others and judge what they believe and call it satanic. Well, what does Satan and devil mean? Resistor, opposer. Look at the meaning of what Satan means. Is it really a person or is it a way of being? And are we using that force to constrict and control others? Because to me, that's what's satanic, not what somebody believes about their higher power, their source. Who are they being as a person, as a human being? As somebody who is living by what they're preaching. And if they're preaching love, then who are we to say who they should be worshiping? As long as they are being love. Unconditional love, not the love we claim is love. And it took me a long time to get to that place of realizing this. You know, this isn't judging anybody. I have been there. I was totally there. I was doing all the things, believing all the things. assuming all the things, judging all the things. I get it. I was there. And I'm currently, I mean, nobody's perfect. It's a process. And that's the point. It's forgiving ourselves and forgiving others and learning from our mistakes and being willing to do something about them and figuring out where it's coming from. And that's what we can assist in doing. So follow the Freqs. Follow us on our platforms and reach out and share your stories and share, have a safe space where you can own your mistakes and learn from them and not be judged, so that you can figure out why you're stuck. Because the only thing that gets me is people continuing to treat each other this way and not bothering to find out how we can be and do better for each other. Because people would rather take the path of least resistance. Well, what resists persists. So we're only doing it to ourselves when we don't look. When we aren't willing to be open to other perspectives, other possibilities, because we're judging where the information is coming from and who it's coming from. Because we've been programmed to believe that we can only listen to these people because they're the only ones with the answers. And it's keeping us limited. And in conflict with ourselves and others. So thank you for joining. And I hope you'll follow us, like, subscribe, and we'll see you out there. Stay tuned for the next exciting episode of The Freq Show. Happy Freaky Friday.